Welcome, good evening, Chag Sameach, happy Passover, happy Easter, everybody. Welcome to episode number 104 of the Below the Yellow Line podcast. I am your host, Joe Lanny Pavlon. Alongside me tonight, we have Justin Hebert.
Yep.
And yes, Tuesday night podcast. Luckily, I've been able to say that in a long time, and hopefully it stays that way from here on out. Unfortunately, last night we were not able to get the podcast live yesterday because of NASCAR's postponement at Bristol, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. But as the title says, NASCAR makes history. And boy, if we go back even 1 year ago, 2 years ago, definitely 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, the idea of putting the Cup cars on dirt for a points-paying race, was that even in the picture?
No, it wasn't. Nobody was talking about it. Only people were like, "Oh, bring Xfinity," because they saw the trucks there, so like, "Oh, Xfinity," but nobody talked about Cup being on dirt. But they finally did.
This was a big move by NASCAR, Justin, was it?
Yeah, like 51 years since the last race in 1970, hearing that Bristol's on dirt, and of all tracks to do it, Bristol Motor Speedway, which is known for the concrete oval half-mile.
That track, of course, the normal paved Bristol Motor Speedway puts on good dirt short track races on its own.
Yeah.
This was a very interesting move because you think about it, Bristol Motor Speedway is under contract by the group that the NASCAR is signed with the tracks, Bristol Motor Speedway and some other tracks.
Yeah, SMI.
Yeah, SMI. And I think this was a very easy move for NASCAR, not only for the fact that Bristol Motor Speedway has been struggling really for attendance in the last few years prior to the COVID pandemic, and the fact that NASCAR has utilized the track during the pandemic to go above and beyond when NASCAR really didn't even need to. Like, for example, the All-Star race. Like, it's amazing how they squeezed in the All-Star race midweek at Bristol. But why? Because fans were able to go there. It was legally possible to bring the fans there. Bristol's located on the Tennessee side of the border city. It worked in everybody's favor. And some of my favorite vlogs from some of my YouTubers, except for one, of course, involved that Bristol All-Star race. Now, let's go to the night race later that same year, 2020.
Yep.
I think that was the highest paying crowd that the Cup Series had during the entire pandemic portion of the 2020 season.
Yeah.
Now, this year, of course, NASCAR doesn't keep track of numbers of attendance anymore, and they don't release that to the public as they used to. But I think just by my eyes that we just saw the biggest crowd at a NASCAR Cup race, maybe at Bristol, the entire history of Bristol in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a Monday afternoon race here that was postponed from one of the worst storms in the state of Tennessee that happened on Sunday.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to the 4 people that died in the floodings in Nashville. That was from the same storm cell. But yeah, Bristol was actually affected by the floods. If you saw outside the racetrack, the pictures shown by Kenny Wallace, you could see it was just a great weekend gone bad really fast. And it started on Saturday with the Truck Series heat races. The heat races got wiped out. Truck Series, Cup Series, and everybody just had to suck it up and go race on Monday.
Yep.
Well, we're going to start with the Cup Series race. First time in 51 years. A lot of course, has changed in half a century plus a year in the history of stock car racing's highest level. These drivers have practiced, of course, on iRacing as much as you could do, especially they had some test sessions along the way since the announcement. 40 cars were on that dirt track. That's a lot of cars.
40?
Or 40 cars were able to get out there.
Yeah, but there was only 39 entered for the Cup Series.
But even for a dirt track, that's a lot.
Yeah, and people wanted more. But like 39, because there was only 40 allowed, so 39 already did make it. But the heats were wiped out because the mud, and people are like, "Oh, just put a windshield wiper."
Take the windshields off, as they always say. Everybody,
Yeah.
especially the dirt track community, was yelling to the NASCAR officials saying, "Take the windshields off." Well, these are stock cars. You can't really just
take off the wind. No, it's harder to take off the windshields than you think. They take it off after the race is done.
tear off.
Yeah, but the thing is, the whole windshield, the only time they take it off is in the race shop after the event's done. That's what the crew does. You don't. Also, NASCAR cars, dirt late models don't go the same speed.
They're designed different. And
also, NASCAR cars are more underneath. There could be stuff that could fly.
Oh yeah.
Remember 2015, remember one of the ballast fell off Ross Chastain's car?
During an Xfinity Series
practice. And it hit Jamie Dick's windshield.
It could have been so bad the way that it nearly hit his head. And
yeah,
we never seen something like that in a stock car in so long. And luckily that's a very rare situation. But yeah, dirt track racing and stock cars, we really only could learn off the Eldora Truck Series races that happened from 2013 to 2019 to really get a picture of how this could work in the Cup Series.
But
at least we know how the trucks worked at dirt. That will lead that onto another discussion. But let's start with the Cup race. So, of course, the heat races were canceled. Those were supposed to be on Saturday for the Sunday race. That really did kind of ruin a lot of high hopes for some of these back markers, or, because the heat races were literally determined. The grids were literally determined. Random draw and starting grids. So we had the back markers up front. We had a lot of opportunities were there.
Yeah,
to climb up the position ladder for the grid on race day.
Yeah,
that was wiped off.
Yeah, but it would have been funny, especially Heat 1 with Quinhoff on the pole in Heat 1. That would have been interesting. But Yaley started in Heat 3. Yaley was starting second.
He's a dirt track veteran, and I'm sure that he would have been definitely was probably one of the drivers that hoped to have had a heat race prior to the main event. Yeah,
he ended up starting 34th because of no qualifying.
Yeah, so they went to the metric system to do that, plus owner points. But at least for the Cup race, that everybody made the grid, so it was fair and in the same capacity. But we'll start with the race itself. Okay, Joey Logano. We really did not expect Joey Logano to be the two drivers that was supposed to be, the two factors on winning this race. Were taken out in the same crash. We'll get into that in a minute. But Joey Logano brings Team Penske another win 2 weeks in a row. Ryan Blaney last week, Joey Logano this week. Yeah. Logano won stage 2. He led 61 laps after starting 10th for his 27th career win. And Joey Logano gets to join next to Richard Petty on the list of last two dirt winners in the Cup Series. 51 years apart.
Yep.
What do they both have in common? Well, 8 championships combined. Of course, the other 7 were with Richard Petty. But Joey Logano drove brilliantly. He held off Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I'm sure Stenhouse would have definitely been one of the drivers that hoped to have had the heat races in the process of qualifying, because Stenhouse is a very good dirt driver. In fact, this is kind of like his home in some actually. Yeah. Kind of like his second home, is Bristol Motor Speedway. Yeah. Denny Hamlin finished 3rd. In fact, he led the first lap, started 2nd. But great points day for the championship leader. Let's talk about 4th place for a moment. Here, Danny is on the show. Welcome, Daniel Ford. How's it going?
I'm doing good, guys. How's everybody doing?
We're all good. Welcome to the house.
Yeah, thanks.
We were just talking about the top finishers at the Cup race on Bristol Dirt. Joey Logano becomes the first driver since Richard Petty in 1970 to win a dirt track Cup Series race. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. came home 2nd, and we were talking about how had the heat races been part of the race weekend, that some of these drivers like Stenhouse, JJ Yaley, some of the dirt ringers would have had better
Larson.
Starting spots. Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, just to name a few.
Yeah. But unfortunately, Mother Nature had her cards right, and we end up not getting the heat races on. So the race gets pushed to Monday. Man, I tell you what, I think everybody here or every NASCAR fan had Kyle Larson to win that race yesterday. And
that didn't last long.
That really didn't last long. I myself picked him a couple of weeks ago to win at Bristol, but you know what? Logano came out the better man, and Truex was really good all day prior to him winning his first Truck Series race, which probably you will get to that in a little bit more. But Truex was running in the top 5 all day.
Oh, he was brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah, Martin Truex Jr., we're going to get into that. He was just unlucky at the end, had a very good car. But Joey Logano executed so well. He ran very consistently. He learned the track, which was a difficult maneuver for a lot of these people, especially since the weather ruined the surface from any means of practice. It meant nothing by race day.
Yeah.
But in the end, we saw the dirt drivers like Ryan Newman, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. climbing towards the front, being a factor. Tyler Reddick, to name another one. But let's talk about fourth place here. This is the driver. I mean, if NASCAR driver of the day, I'd give it to him in an instant. Daniel Suarez,
Ooh, man,
who led 58 laps from the 18 start spot, driving for Team Trackhouse, a startup NASCAR Cup Series team owned by celebrity artist Pitbull and former driver Justin Marks, with Chevrolet-powered engines in their 7th start, running up front like they've been racing for wins in the last 10 to 20 years. Daniel Suarez had his best chance to win a Cup Series race, and nobody saw this coming. What brought Daniel Suarez towards the front in this race?
He had a good car. His setup was really good, and also, the thing is, well, remember, right before that, Suarez actually ran the truck race for Young Motorsports. He got experience on the track, which helped him, and he learned through the race, and he had a fast car.
Yeah, he really did have a fast car. I was just about to get to that point, Justin. About him really doing good in that truck race.
Yeah,
a lot, like a good 1/3 portion of the of the drivers in the weekend ran both the Truck Series and Cup Series races. That really helped those drivers, especially during Monday, getting used to the surface and what to expect when they get in the Cup cars. That happened just a few hours after the conclusion of yesterday's Truck Series race. Daniel Suarez was amongst them, and congratulations to Team Trackhouse. 7 races in, best finish as a team, 4th place, first ever top 10. Very good performance. How about Ryan Newman? You know, Ryan Newman needs a good run with the Roush, and this was the absolute best opportunity for Ryan Newman. Like I said before, and I'll say it again many times, he's definitely one of the drivers that could have utilized those heat races had they happen. 6th place, William Byron. He won the iRacing event that featured a lot of the Cup Series stars on Thursday or Wednesday, I meant.
Yeah.
William Byron has a lot of experience on the dirt oval through sim racing.
Yeah.
He brought it to 6th place. Great run for Byron. 7th place, Tyler Reddick, another dirt track sensation. 8th place, Ryan Blaney. Eric Jones. How about Eric Jones for Richard Petty Motorsports, bringing it home 9th? Absolutely impressive. He needed this for a long time, just for some self-esteem.
Yeah.
And Chase Elliott rounded out the top 10. Chase Elliott, last year's Cup Series champion. Now, let's look outside the top 10 and point at some drivers here. Kurt Busch finished 16th. His brother Kyle finished 17th. In fact, looked like he was out of the race already after leading on lap 8. He led the first 7 laps.
Yeah.
Had to bring it over the pits because of an overheating problem, and the dirt got in the hood. Just killed the car.
Yeah.
Held back 2 laps. Got his laps back. to be even 17th after that, that's impressive.
But he also
ran into contact too.
Yeah, he got into Ryan Blaney in the 12. And also another thing about one of the people that Ryan Blaney, he finished 8th with a tore up car. Like the left rear fender was not even on the car anymore.
Yeah.
And he finished that race in 8th after the contact with Kyle Busch, which caused a pile up on the straightaway. That's why they decided to do the single file starts. Because with the double file, there was too much dust.
Yeah, the single file research was a good way to let the dust settle, because one line of cars allowed the rest of the dust to settle. If there was another line, then that would help. That would keep the dust in the air.
Yeah.
In Bristol, even with, I know this is a crazy comparison, but you know why Bristol Motor Speedway is a short track and is, believe it or not, the loudest Cup Series racetrack? Well, we're talking about Bristol on the pavement here. It's because of the layout of the stadium. Size seating that surrounds the track like a football stadium. The sound can't travel out of the area. That's why the circuit is so loud.
Yeah.
But think about where the dust can't travel out because of the design of the venue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention about the finishing order. Let's go down to 19th place. Martin Truex Jr. dominated this race. He won stage 1, led 126 laps, more than anybody else. Started 5th. Martin Truex Jr., who won the Truck Series race, we'll get into that when we cover the trucks, had a flat tire on the final restart. He was running 3rd and brought home 19th. Last car in the lead lap. Absolute shame for what was a great drive from someone who I least expected to run up towards the front.
Yeah, and speaking of that, that final restart, man, on that overtime where Truex was trying to catch Logano, and Truex just went straight up the track and into the wall. And that was really unfortunate. I thought he was going to go for a back-to-back win here.
Or win once in the last two races. Martin Truex Jr. had a good day, but it just, every lap counts, and there's another example why every lap counts. Let's move down the finishing order. Finishing in 20th, Chase Briscoe. We saw him run to some contact a few times. He was the first car lap down, but still managed to top 20 out of it. We had much higher expectations for Chase Briscoe. 23rd place, making his first Cup Series start. Stuart Friesen, a dirt track veteran who competes for the NASCAR Truck Championship, brought his Spire Motorsports Chevrolet to the 23rd position in his debut. We had some other drivers make their debut as well. Bubba Wallace had a top 10 car all day long until a cut tire after contact with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., setting Bubba Wallace to 27th place on the final results. Just another race where Bubba Wallace had a car that was meant to finish in the top 10, just didn't go well. And he's got some good tracks up ahead, like Martinsville in 2 weeks' time, which I forgot to mention. This is the final race of the first batch of the Cup season. They can have an off week this time around with the Easter break next weekend, back at Martinsville, all the way until All-Star break, which is mid-June. So a big stretch of Cup Series races coming up next time around.
Yeah.
But back to Bubba Wallace. He's got Martinsville. Talladega, great track for Bubba Wallace.
Yes.
So there's stuff to look forward to, and let's not forget he's still with the startup team. We almost saw 2 startup teams finish in the top 5 because Bubba Wallace was climbing up towards the 5th place spot. He was around 7th or 8th place by the time his tire cut down. We could have seen 2 startup teams in the top 10, which was very impressive.
Yeah.
JJ Elliott, dirt veteran, finished 28th. Kyle Larson finished 29th. A lot of people said Kyle Larson, who started from the pole, even though he went to the back. Kyle Larson was going to be the absolute favorite. Everyone said Kyle Larson's first race, his first win with Rick Hendrick will be Bristol Dirt, no doubt. Everybody said that. Well, first of all, his first win with Hendrick Motorsports was at Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He crushed the competition that day. And second of all, he was honestly just unlucky.
Yeah, he got into an unlucky accident, which was none of his fault. Christopher Bell lost it in front of him, and a dirt track, like a short track, is different. Like avoiding a crash in a dirt race is more harder than you think.
It's very impossible.
Yeah, if you slam on the brakes, you're gonna slide around, and people had nowhere to go. Like Larson had nowhere to go. Ross Chastain, people kept piling in because they couldn't avoid it because you can't avoid a wreck like a big one. Like you'll figure out in the final of when we go, like there's more drivers that were out. You'll figure out what happened in the first accident of the day.
Yeah. So Larson had to settle for a 29th place finish. In fact, he was actually one of the last few cars that were running at the end of the race.
Yep.
31st place, Mike Marlar, dirt track veteran, made his Cup Series debut driving for Carl Long. He crashed out on lap 244, retiring at the 31st position. Chris Windom drove for Rick Ware Racing in his Cup Series debut. With an engine failure on lap 62, he retired, finishing 33rd. Christopher Bell was the other driver that people were going to consider winning this race due to his enormous background and successful history of dirt track racing. Christopher Bell was the car that spun around and collected Kyle Larson, pretty much ruining anybody's fantasy NASCAR hopes for the weekend. Bell retired on lap 54 in the 34th position as a result. Last but not least, Shane Golovk, another dirt track driver, a dirt track ringer, finished 37th out of the race. He was involved in a crash with Eric Almirola.
Yeah, that big one. That was the first caution in the race. If people don't remember or people don't know what happened, Eric Almirola was just running his line. Actually, he was on the bottom, but he actually got pinched. Stuart Friesen kind of turned into him, spun Eric Almirola, and then everybody kept piling in, including Shane Golovk, Corey LaJoie, Anthony Alfredo. They all piled in because they had nowhere to go, which really sucked for them.
Right, and that's another thing with dirt track racing. Avoiding wrecks is a completely different nature. Chances are if you slow down and jam the brakes, it's very likely someone else is going to hit you from behind. You're going to be involved. Or if you try to, immediately turn to avoid, you're probably going to just crash or spin or having to spin with no choice to avoid any worse outcome.
Yeah.
These Cup guys finally get an off week. So from February 14th to March 29th, they went week to week to week to week.
Right.
From different tracks. We had all kinds of different tracks. We're going to look at the Cup Series point standings in just a second. But before we highlight this next part, and where my real key concern is, and not concern, but something I'd like to point out. Let's just start with the point standings. Denny Hamlin extends that points lead once again, but not by much because Joey Logano picked up that win. So the gap is 58 points.
That's still a lot compared to other series. Like the Truck Series, it's more of a different gap compared to the Cup Series. But 50-some points, that's still a lot.
That's steady.
If you're a Hamlin fan, you should be very excited for the next group of races coming up. Joey Logano finished or is currently second in the point standings. The gap is 58 points. Third place, Martin Truex Jr. Though he finished 19th, it might have been a much better go for Truex had he finished in the top 5 as he should, or if the cautions didn't line up the way they did it towards the end. Still, third place, not a bad run, minus 80 from the championship leader, Kyle Larson, another driver who suffered in the race yesterday, minus 85 from the points lead. Now, Brad Keselowski was pretty quiet yesterday, but he still retains 5th, 95 points from the championship leader. William Byron, who won at Homestead Miami Speedway, is 99 points back. Ryan Blaney is 7th place. The Atlanta 500 winner is 101 points behind Denny Hamlin. Kevin Harvick, the 2014 champion, is 102 back. And if you're a Harvick fan, you should be excited for these next group of races. As for Chase Elliott fans, Chase Elliott, car number 9, is position number 9 in the points standings. Elliott is minus 211, or is minus 116 with 211 points earned so far. Austin Dillon and Christopher Bell tie for 10th with 186 points.
But Dillon is 10th because he finished higher than Bell. They usually go by who finishes higher in the race if they're tied, which Bell finished worse than Dillon. So
Right.
it's an interesting point. And now people are wondering, how's the cutoff?
Well, this is where it's going to get interesting, Justin. Do you know why?
Why?
Because usually we just talk about the point standings, had to be any other year, but it's kind of getting towards 2014 in this case, because if this continues at Martinsville, half the playoff grid, which is 16 drivers, guaranteed position seeded through winning a race.
Yeah, because
so you have 7 winners in 7 races.
Like, I'll tell you, this is the interesting part. I'm just going to tell you, after Bell, Bell is in 10th.
Right.
11th is Austin Dillon, tied. 12th is Michael McDowell, tied with Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is 13th. Then you got Stenhouse, Kurt Busch. Alex Bowman's the one in 16th right now. Then to 20th, you got Buescher, Ryan Preece, Ryan Newman, and Daniel Suarez. Suarez is 20th, and you know the top 30.
So what about Larson?
Larson is P4 in points.
Okay.
But I'm just looking through. You know that you need to be top. If you win, you got to be top 30 in points to make the playoffs.
Right.
After Suarez, it's Bubba Wallace, Eric Jones, Cole Custer, Matt DiBenedetto, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, Chase Briscoe, Eric Almirola, Corey LaJoie, and Anthony Alfredo. Yes, Almirola's 28th in points, which
That's
is
not a look. That's not a good look for Stuart Haas right now.
Yeah, they have 2 other drivers not in the top 20 in point. At the 3 of their drivers, Briscoe, Custer,
not even in the top 10.
You got 1 top 10 drivers, Kevin Harvick, in 8th.
Right.
Harvick is 8th. Then you got Almirola 28th, Briscoe's 27th, Cole Custer's 23rd. That is a concern for Stuart Haas. That they only got 1 in the top 10. The other 2 are in the top 30.
And that's not a good look for the fact that they're driving with a Ford. Ford probably the most competitive factory supported manufacturer when it comes to teams here, because Team Penske, on the other hand, is with the clear advantage here.
Yeah.
And by looking at it right now, it's kind of insane to say that the Roush drivers are doing better than some of the Stuart Haas drivers.
That is
still factory supported, and not to mention Michael McDowell, who in the Daytona 500 drove a Ford that was factory supported as well, ended up winning the 500 for a team that's supposedly supposed to be weaker than Team Penske and team or Stuart Haas Racing, and even in some parts Roush Fenway Racing. So this is kind of a struggle. But if you're an Almirola fan, you should be excited for Talladega. You know,
right.
If you're a Cole Custer fan, you should be looking at Kansas. He's got the mile and a half. But
if you're a Penske fan, you should be definitely looking forward to Talladega, or if you're a Ford fan in general, because the Blue Ovals have been dominant at that track.
Yeah,
absolutely. That race will be in 3 races from now, and by the looks of it, it seems like they'll have the advantage. But yes, this is a first off week, and the next batch of races, as I'm about to mention here, from here on to the next off week, we go till the middle of June.
Off week.
Yeah.
There's no off week. It's just the All-Star race.
I know, but I'm considering it to be an off week.
Well, for me, an off week, it's like, but there's no, like, it's an off week.
I'm trying to say, like, not like an actual race that has points, but the next batch of races will.
But I'm just saying it's, like, not a, like, for me, like, official off week. I don't call it an off week. I just say non-points race. Yeah. But, like, the next off week, other than that one, is in a while from now, I think.
Because, the NBC Universal did request a break from NASCAR coverage during the Olympics in late July, early August. Yeah, let me just from here to the All-Star race. So we're 7 races in, then we go to a whole batch of completely different tracks. This is going to be a very tough part of the season here. It's already tough enough with the schedule itself being different the way it is, but we have Martinsville, which is really the first. Wow, the Panthers are winning 3-0. Okay, this is more old hockey media, but I'm pretty ecstatic.
Well, the Devils are winning 2-1 against Boston right now.
Oh boy.
Okay, so maybe half and half happy here.
Well,
But we got Martinsville, round 8, round 9, Richmond. So we have 2 short track races ahead.
Yep.
And then Talladega, the second restricted plate super speedway of the season. There's 4 of them. We go back to a 1.5 mile, which Kansas. Darlington will have the Darlington 400.
Oh my God.
Dover will have a 400-mile race the week after. 2 completely different tracks that are about a mile in length.
Oh my God.
We have the inaugural COTA Texas Grand Prix, round 14 on the 23rd of May. And then we have the Coca-Cola 600 on May 30th.
And then June 6th, the Sonoma
Hopefully
Raceway.
we'll see Sonoma back on the schedule.
Right.
If it's going to happen, it'll be on June 6th for round 16 Sonoma. That will be the third road course race of the season. Goalie change already. Thomas Grace. Yep.
Don't know what I just saw? Oh my gosh, I just forgot. Remember the fans were allowed to pick the name for the Kansas race? NASCAR updated their app. It's called the Bushy Big Busch Race 400. It's just, that's just the weirdest name.
Sounds like a prank to me.
Yeah.
What happens if Mike Joy says we're underway in the Bushy Big Busch Race 400? Oh my God, that's just the name. That's just so weird.
In a free country, people could change their names anytime. So there you go. Maybe there is a Bushy McBush. But yeah, let's continue this conversation here. So yeah, from round 8 to round 16, this batch of races, these batch of races here, that's a span of 8 races. Martinsville, Richmond, Talladega, Kansas, Darlington, Dover, COTA, Coca-Cola 600, Charlotte, Sonoma. These are a lot of different tracks. This is going to be difficult for a lot of teams, a lot of drivers, and NASCAR has made some rule changes along the way that I'm, in fact, a little bit intrigued by. During the Bristol Dirt Race, because of visibility complaints from the drivers and spotters alike, NASCAR did something for the first time since Pocono of June 2009. Single file restarts during a points-paying Cup race. First time in almost 12 years. Now, could NASCAR learn from this? Because of the amount of road course races we have, is it time that NASCAR reevaluates the double file restart rule in the Cup Series? Is it necessary? Should it be appropriate on all tracks that double file restarts be used? Now, that's another question because we got tracks coming up like COTA, like Road America, Indy GP.
Well,
it's one thing to, have single file restarts for when you need it, but we have never seen NASCAR put themselves in this position before.
Well, one of the reasons they had to do it was the dust, which was an issue. Like, people kept wrecking on the front straightaway, like that big one with Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, because the dust was getting kicked up. But the thing about, like, other tracks, there's some tracks it would be good at, but some tracks it wouldn't. Like, there's some tracks, like example, like, they could do double file at Nashville.
Like short tracks or, like, some of the intermediates, but...
Yeah, like, I see, like some tracks, they double file works, but there's some tracks, like, it's just like a dirt track. It doesn't work too much.
I think it works at a dirt track. I mean, just look at the Chili Bowl and all the other events.
Yeah, but they don't have a windshield compared to NASCAR. They have windshields. It's
right.
It's like
I think when I'm asking this question, I'm kind of focusing us answer based off the road courses and tracks that we've never been to before. Like, for example, Road America, I understand that Xfinity's been in Road America for over 10 years by now, and they've always used double file restarts since the dawn of Xfinity Series racing at Road America, and we've seen the chaos that that brings, especially with the late race restarts and all that. And I don't want to go in the whole entertainment versus integrity thing, but what about Coda? I just don't understand. Maybe of course the initial start is one thing, but how would turn one fare out if everybody's double file at Coda?
But
just consider it.
But the thing about going double file at Road America, the thing is they don't usually wreck right on the restart. Most guys wreck a few corners later. Like remember when Allgaier crashed? That was not in the front straightaway. That was after turn 4. He crashed into a wall with Jeffrey Earnhardt, and Jeremy Clements wrecked into a sign into the wall. But, for me, I feel like if they wreck on the front stretch, maybe change it up. But if they wreck a few corners later, that's fine. It's like if they wreck on the main straightaway on the restart, well, that's the problem. If they wreck on the same straightaway that they restart on. If they wreck a few, they wreck somewhere else that's not on the front straightaway, it's okay. But it's just, I feel like
this is a good idea and a good opportunity that NASCAR could even use esports and iRacing to maybe test the procedures if they would do a single file restart at Coda versus a double file restart. And think about it. If the single file restart is used, continuing on at NASCAR, that's what they do, picking up from what happened in Bristol.
Yeah.
That could actually be more fair to the drivers that are up front compared to the fact because, the choose cone rule is only for tracks other than road courses and
super speedways.
But I'm trying to say, if you are on an even number position, you're not having preferred line going into turn 1. Why would that be fair? Instead, if everybody's on the same line because they're single file, then everybody has the same opportunity to use as much racetrack as they want instead of having to be adjacent to a car next to them and sometimes, unfortunately, not being in the preferred line. This isn't short track racing here. So we'll have to see where NASCAR goes with this. Maybe it's a learning point, especially with the fact that we have a lot of new circuits coming our way in the later parts of the season.
But
that was my first point.
But most of the drivers are glad that they have. Most of the drivers are happy that they have practice for those races. Next time they'll have practice is at Coda. That's the next race with practice because they've never been to Coda, obviously. Because
we also have this is what the second road course race.
The second road course race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, their last one was Daytona, which was won by Christopher Bell. But the thing is, it's there's some tracks I would get it, but there's some tracks I wouldn't. Darlington, for example, they could run double file. We don't have problems with restarts.
Right. We've seen enough Darlington races with the double file restarts and know that they're good. And hell, put the choose cone rule there too.
Yeah,
we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it's it's just there's some tracks where it's a problem. Like the Dirt Bristol race, it was a problem. So NASCAR's we're going to put a single file. And fans complained about it, but it's the dust was getting kicked up and people kept wrecking.
Yeah, true.
And maybe they should try to do that for the super speedways again. If they ever consider doing single file restarts at Daytona and Talladega again. And hey, if NASCAR has a select group of single file restart races coming our way, will we see them bring back the lap down car rule that was installed before the 2009 adjustment was made when they went from just wiping out the single file restarts entirely? What I mean is if you are a lap down and you weren't the lucky dog or 2 laps down, everybody had the opportunity to restart up beside the race leader. So let's say the leader's here, then second, third, fourth, and so on back.
Yeah.
The lap down cars, 1 lap down, 1 lap down, 1 lap, 2 laps down, and everybody would kind of have that opportunity to be close by the leaders to get their laps back, which, of course, was only a NASCAR rule. I never really seen that in any other form of motorsports. Usually it's all done in overall order, and if you're 1 or more laps down, you just got to deal with the end of the line.
Well, IndyCar is different, too, with single-file restarts. They had this IndyCar had this problem earlier in the first race of the season last year at Texas. Remember the lap cars were between Simon Pagenaud and Scott Dixon on that final restart? Pagenaud couldn't get there because the lap cars were in the way. Instead of putting them in the back, they're like, oh, we'll put them between Dixon and Pagenaud for some random reason.
Usually we see IndyCar do that early in the race, but that wasn't the case. Normally, especially in the late race, it's not a rule for IndyCar, but it's kind of like an unwritten rule that you just put the lap down cars in the back in the final 10 laps.
Yeah.
But I think they had to get the restart there. There would not have been a restart at all.
Yeah, but the thing is, instead of putting them both ahead of the leader, Dixon, but they didn't put one behind Pagenaud. They put all the lap cars between Dixon and Pagenaud, which was a little bit weird, just having Dixon, lap cars, Pagenaud. It's just a little bit weird.
And also to consider the following that, by the way, with that lap down car rule that NASCAR had in the old single file restart system before 2009, the lap down cars would be forced to the end of the longest line with 10 or more laps to go on a restart. So they wouldn't be involved in any late race situation. In fact, I think NASCAR made that rule in the 90s to get them out of the way. But that's what I mean. Like, if NASCAR continues with the single file restarts, maybe we'll see something in the making here, because they're not afraid. We know this in the past. NASCAR's not afraid to make rule changes along the season.
Yeah.
Like the choose cone rule, for example, on the double file restarts.
And if they're gonna make those changes during the season, they have to let the fans know they're gonna stand their ground.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I was gonna say, and maybe just out of an opinion myself, I think the double file tracks that will not have to choose cone rule, those should be the tracks that go single file restarts. But we'll see. We'll see where this goes.
But it just depends what track. Like, for me,
there's a short track.
Like, some tracks you need to do single file, but some tracks you gotta do double file. Like, there's some tracks that they have experience at, like example, Darlington, Richmond, they have experience going too wide.
Those would be more appropriate for double file restarts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But like Bristol Dirt, they had to put a single file due the not seeing anything. The spotters even struggled to see because all the dirt getting kicked up. Or like a new track, Coda, Road America, Indy, the Indy Road Course, like those tracks that are new, those tracks.
Right.
Because people wheels spin and that could cause chaos.
Mm-hmm.
If they
okay. But yeah, let's. I don't know. I can't remember where I was going to go with this. I had another point in mind, but I do want to get to the truck race soon. But yes. What about the returning tracks? Sonoma, Watkins Glen. Just at the time of this video, they're still on the schedule.
Yeah.
So we're going to go about that. They're coming back.
Yep.
If NASCAR doesn't change the rules with practice and qualifying, these drivers are going to return to those tracks cold turkey.
Well, for some drivers, it's going to be decent. Like some drivers that know the track, it's okay. But it's the rookie drivers. They're going to have issues. Like Anthony Alfredo, he's never been to Sonoma or Watkins Glen. Same as Chase Briscoe's been to Watkins Glen, but not Sonoma.
Luckily for Sonoma, though, I mean, it's not an Xfinity.
It's ARCA West.
It's the ARCA West race at Sonoma, would usually take the place as the Xfinity race. Wait, is Xfinity going to Sonoma this year?
No, they're not going to Sonoma. They have an off. No, they're going to Mid-Ohio.
Why do I feel like I got something wrong with that?
No.
June 5th. Oh, Mid-Ohio. Thank you for reminding me, because I was about to say something completely off.
Yeah, they're going to they're going to Mid-Ohio that week.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was just me in my head thinking they were going to go to Sonoma one year. I would love to see Xfinity cars at Sonoma, but hey, that would kill the purpose of the West Series race.
Well, the only place you could run Xfinity cars at Sonoma is on NASCAR Heat 5. That's the only place you could run Xfinity cars at Sonoma.
Yeah. Watkins Glen, we're going to see a lot of Cup guys, I'm sure, in the Xfinity race. That's usually one of the highlight races for Cup drivers when it comes to the Xfinity schedule, is the Watkins Glen race.
Oh, yeah, like 2019 when Kyle Busch had an issue. And
usually that's because of the pit crews. The pit crews need to train. You're going through the other side of the wall, not the usual side.
Well, yeah, but no, the Kyle Busch issue, he had something break on the car. Well, and Ryan Blaney took the lead. Yeah, Ryan Blaney was in that race in the number 12 car. And
it was his teammate that won, Austin Cindric.
Yeah.
It was his first career win.
Oh, wow. The Devils are leading 2-1 after the first period.
All right, let's move to the Truck Series now to talk about round 5 of the 22 race championship. And boy, this has been an eventful one.
Oh, jeez. Hey.
For the Camping World Truck Series, the inaugural Bristol Dirt Race, Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr., of course, an experienced driver in NASCAR from Maine, New Jersey, Cup Series champion for 2017, 2-time Xfinity Series champion prior to his time in the Cup Series when he won 6 races in each year, driving for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. He ran only 2 Truck Series starts from 2005 to 2006, both driving for Billy Ballew Motorsports. Ironically, Kyle Busch Motorsports picked up the remains of Billy Ballew Motorsports, which Kyle himself drove for. A 19th place finish at Milwaukee Mile in 2005, and a miserable 34th place finish at Michigan in retirement in 2006. Truex Jr. has not seen the Truck Series since. Comes back to practice for the Cup Series race on the Bristol Dirt. Nobody really expected Truex Jr. to be a factor, especially had there been heat races to set the field.
Yeah.
But with the owner points and all that starting the grid, he was up towards the front. Truex Jr. started 15th, climbed his way up one stage 2, and won his first career Camping World Truck Series race. It was absolutely impressive. I've never really said that about a Cup Series driver running in lower series in a long time, but that was probably one of the most impressive wins that I've seen in Martin Truex Jr.'s entire NASCAR career. He was not a favorite to win the truck race going into it. We saw a lot of dirt track parity in that event. And I'm sure that, especially since there were 4 drivers that didn't make the race, 3 of them DNQ'd, that we would have seen a lot of different names had the heat races run as planned. This was the race, unlike the Cup Series, that depended on the heats to really show what really could have happened had everything run smoothly, which of course it didn't. Martin Truex Jr. put himself in the right position. Either way, a win is a win, and we at least expected Truex Jr. to be in this position. He just dominated. And how many laps did MTJ lead?
105.
105 of the 150 laps.
Yeah, he led the most laps. I didn't expect him to win. I thought Stuart Friesen would have won in his Hallmark Friesen Racing Toyota, but Martin Truex Jr. for KBM, it's number 51. That actually helps that 51 in the owner points.
Big time.
Which they're actually tied for the lead with the Ford truck in owner points, which is impressive.
Yep. Very good win for Martin Truex Jr. It's his first career win. Never finished inside the top 15. Now he has 15 years apart, a win in the trucks. Well done for Martin Truex Jr. In fact, this race kind of reminds me of how Greg Biffle won the Truck Series race at Texas in 2019 when he never stepped in the truck since Homestead of 2004. Came back to win.
Well, also, a thing about Martin Truex Jr., he's the 36th Cup driver to win in all 36 driver in NASCAR to win in all 3 series. Number 36 to win in all 3 series now.
The last driver to do that was Christopher Bell.
Yeah, this year. All the way back at the Daytona Road Course.
But yeah, a very, very good run for MTJ. Now, how about Ben Rhodes pouncing in this championship race here? Ben Rhodes finishing second. Rhodes led 3 laps. We didn't expect Ben Rhodes to run up front, knowing how he came from from this dirt background. By the way, let me just mention Martin Truex Jr. once more. MTJ came from short tracks in the Northeast, from modified tour and all the pavements, like the boat from the Northeast American part of the racing world. You don't really see too many dirt tracks there. You see more short tracks with pavement.
Yeah.
Like his father did. Truex Jr. is a very good road course driver. You'd expect him to possibly run at COTA. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs COTA then.
In what series?
Truck Series.
Okay, because the Cup Series and Parker Chase is in the 51.
Parker Chase, he's an Lexus factory driver.
And Kyle Busch is in the 54 at Coda. But Truex will run probably good at Coda. He's
Absolutely.
a good road course racer.
Big time. But yeah, let's go down the results. How about Rafael Asari? Fastest in practice 1. Brings the truck from 29th to 3rd. Great points day for Lassar. Todd Gilliland, highest finishing Ford over another Ford, Chase Briscoe. A lot of people thought Chase Briscoe was going to win, but he's also Briscoe's definitely one of the drivers who really could have used those heat races to his advantage.
Good. He actually did good in that equipment, which it is Corey Roper's number 04 entry. Really good run.
Second and a fifth with 2 different drivers. Corey Roper himself or a third and a fifth.
Yeah.
Great run for that team.
Yep. 6th
place, Grant Enfinger. Led 2 laps. Started 8th. Good run for Grant. Zane Smith finished 7th in a truck that was unfortunately unsponsored. 8th place, Parker Kligerman. Yep. Good run for the home team, Henderson Motorsports. Austin Hill led 1 lap, started 2nd, finished 9th. And give a call to Austin Wayne Self. Ran in the top 10 all day long and closes out the top 10. Great run. Now let's move down the finishing order because we had a lot of parity in this event for sure. Bubba Wallace, another driver that could have really used those heat races, finished 11th, started 32nd, really spent most of the race climbing from the back. 12th place, Stuart Friesen. Friesen led 1 lap, started 7th. We really expected more out of him, and of course his wife, who was unable to qualify. But Stuart Friesen unexpectedly finished 12th. We thought that he would have done better, but I'm sure Weekend would have ran. If it ran the way it was supposed to, he probably would have had that good race going. Beforehand, Stuart Friesen won the last truck race at Eldora in 2019. Tanner Gray had an eventful race, to say the least. He finished 13th. And now, mind you, he came from drag racing. You hardly ever see a drag racing driver come from that discipline to stock car racing.
Yeah, and also Tanner Gray. He actually was in an accident early on.
I think he brought out the first caution.
Yeah, he spun and hit. He had damage on his truck and still ended up finishing there. It was actually the highest David Gilliland truck that finished.
And that would have been a surprise to go into this race for sure. Matt Crafton, 14th. 15th place, Kevin Harvick made his first Truck Series start since Pocono of 2015.
Yep.
Sheldon Creed, who we expected to run up front, had a problem late in the race. Sheldon Creed led 38 laps from the 3rd place spot, but will have to settle for 16th. Daniel Suarez made his first Truck Series start since Homestead of 2017 and finished 17th.
2017.
2016. Thanks for correcting me.
Yeah.
Chase Purdy had a pretty interesting run, finishing in the 18th position. Haley Deegan finished 19th. Now, we would have expected Haley Deegan. She would definitely have been one of those drivers that could have done better if the heat races were there just by nature of starting spot.
Yeah.
Ryan Truex made his first start with his brother in who knows how long in NASCAR's top 3 series, not since 2014, that is. Carson Hocevar drops out of the top 10 in points, 21st place. Mike Snyder, 22nd, had an eventful day. Tate Fulgerman, 23rd. Brett Moffitt, 24th. Wow, we had 27 trucks finish on the lead lap. Spencer Boyd, Cody Erickson, and Cody Rorba, 27 trucks in total. It was a very interesting race for sure. Mike Marlar, who was actually involved in one of the bigger accidents of the race, driving for Timmy Hill, finished 28th. Jake Griffin and Timothy Peters rounded out the top 30. 31st place, Andrew Gordon made his Truck Series debut after starting dead last because of the lack of qualifying. Johnny Sauter had a crash on lap 124, retired, finishing 32nd. Jennifer Jo Cobb, 33rd. Chandler Smith is going to have to climb from the bottom in this championship hunt after an accident on lap 117. Kyle Larson. Let's talk about Kyle Larson. We expected Kyle Larson, who made his first Truck Series start since Homestead of 2017, to be a factor. He really needed those heat races to do better in this race. With that wasn't the case. Kyle Larson had to start 28th, and he paid the price.
Yeah, he actually was just running his pace, but Mike Marlar's number 56 had an issue up high, and guess who hit him? Kyle Larson couldn't avoid him, slipped into the back of him, and then right after that, when Kyle Larson slid down the banking, Danny Bone, that was involved in that accident, had nowhere to go and got collected in that number 30 truck and destroyed both.
Kyle Larson was committed to the top.
Yeah, and he couldn't avoid Marlar. He had an issue. Like, you saw how... Remember Mike Marlar was off the pace off of 2?
I think he had a flat tire or something. Something wrong in that truck.
Yeah, and he had nowhere to... Like, he couldn't do anything. He had an issue, and Larson... It's hard to avoid a car that's slow on a dirt track. You're sliding in the corners, and you're trying to avoid that, and jumping on the brakes, you're gonna lose traction and probably spin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing with dirt track racing.
All right, let's move down the finishing order. So Kyle Larson, big time favorite amongst many, out of the race. Danny Bone was part of the accident on lap 98. Norm Benning was parked by NASCAR. Incident where Benning's truck emerged from the racetrack and caused a chain reaction on lap 72. We would have seen him. I wanted to see him through the heats.
But the thing is, he actually spun the truck out. That's kind of why he had a flat tire, but he spun it out. But he was parked. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that
Derek Kraus. Gosh, we're going to talk about Derek Kraus and Tyler Ankrum in a minute here, but he finished 38th. Tyler Ankrum was involved in an accident, finished dead last, and John Hunter Nemechek, who 39. Was really hoping to pull away in the point standings with his wife, about in labor, about to give birth. John Hunter Nemechek, who had Christopher Bell on standby, started from the pole and lasted 48 laps after an accident with Matt Crafton, and he was very frustrated. It was just been a rough weekend for John Hunter Nemechek. Yeah,
but he was not just frustrated he was frustrated at Crafton, but he was also mad at Derek Kraus for spinning into him because 18 trucks passed by and then Kraus spun into him. Mm-hmm. Do you want to know what he said? He said that I'm going to buy Derek Kraus and his spotter glasses. He's basically saying they need glasses because Nemechek was not too happy with getting.
Well, who could be happy if you're waiting? Your spun sign is nothing you can do except for wait and hope everybody gets by the time the caution comes out, and you think everyone gets through, and all of a sudden 2 trucks come piling into you. That is absolutely a displeasure. But let's move forward in this conversation about Tyler Ankrum and Derek Kraus, 2 regulars that really thrived last year in the Truck Series. As we speak, Tyler Ankrum is 28th in the championship. He finished in the top 20 once this year. Derek Kraus, 20th, only finished in the top 10 once on the road course at Daytona. How do you explain these runs now? We're 5 races in. This is no longer early season struggles.
No. There's some drivers like Derek Kraus. There's a thing called a sophomore slump, which that could be happening to Kraus because he was a rookie last year. But Tyler Ankrum, I don't know.
This is staying for 3rd year.
And the thing about Ankrum, he was with GMS last year. A thing about the 26, he has a new crew chief. He has a new lineup. GMS changed. Some of the GMS crew, their lineup changed for 2021. The thing about Tyler Ankrum, he made the playoffs the last 2 years. Which is interesting. Tyler Ankrum is currently... his first start was Martinsville 2018. He won. He has like it's just unlike this year. And also, GMS is more in a different situation than last year. Instead of having just 4 full-time entries, they have 5. And this year, Charles Denike is the crew chief on that 26. And the thing is, last year, Ankrum was paired up with Chad Walter. Chad Walter is now the crew chief on Rafael Lessard's number 24. Yeah. Which he has a new crew chief now. And the thing is, he's still learning. Like, Tyler Ankrum, it's only his 2nd season at GMS Racing. Like, he's just also not just some of the races, it's not been his fault. Like, one of the races, remember that the Las Vegas? He got ran into. His teammate turned into the 3 of Anderson, which turned him into Ankrum. Like, some races, he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time, which is really unfortunate. Sometimes he just gets in wrecks that are none of his fault. He just can't do anything about it.
All right. Let's just debrief though the points, because if there's after 5 races in the Truck Series, this is only a 22 race schedule. John Hunter Nemechek's point lead has been really decreased because of this accident. Yeah. That's why it was so frustrating to go through this. It's now a 6-point gap. He had a huge margin entering this race. Now it's nearly gone. 6 points over Ben Rhodes. Sheldon Creed minus 21. So now throw Creed into the mix. Matt Craft in 4th place minus 40. Stuart Friesen expected better, but still 5th place not bad, minus 53. Austin Hill, 6th place, minus 55. Zane Smith, minus 74. Grant Enfinger, minus 80. Todd Gillen, minus 84. Austin Wayne Self. How about Austin Wayne Self in the top 10 in points, minus 100? Now that's something else.
Yeah. And also, the person other than Nemechek that got a hit in points was Chandler Smith. He's dropped to 15th in points with his DNF. Carson Osfar's dropped to 12th in points after his issue. And then after, you have Chase Purdy, 19th. Haley Deegan did climb up to 21st, but she's still 21st in points. She's only up. Cody Roba didn't run Vegas and is only a point behind Deegan. Kind of bad. What
about Timothy Peters?
He is 24th.
Only one top 20 this year.
The lowest full-time driver in points now is Jennifer Jo Cobb, 33rd in points.
Oh, that is true. Norm Benning didn't run the Daytona race.
Yeah, he's 41st in points. But yeah, Jennifer Jo Cobb's bet.
It also shows you how competitive the Truck Series is also.
Chris Wright, he's 31st, but he missed 2 races because testing positive for COVID-19. And he missed actually 3 races. He also missed the race at a Daytona road course because he was focusing on the Xfinity race at the road course. And also, Dawson Graham missed a race. Cody Erickson drove his truck, so he's 30th.
Graham is an owner driver.
Roper, he gave Briscoe the 04 truck for this race.
Like Dawson Graham.
Yeah,
Roper is an owner driver.
Yeah, he's 29, but Ankrum is 28, 6 points behind Spencer Boyd right now. He's 28th in the standings.
Right. We thought, the lead GMS driver would at least be, probably Tyler Ankrum. But GMS Racing is a tough team because you got drivers competing against each other there. That's a very competitive team. You have the most full-time drivers over there.
Oh, my God. Eckes is ahead of Ankrum, and he ran less races. Oh, my. Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
They got to turn something around for that 26 going to Richmond. Because that's
absolutely.
They got to do something on that 26 truck to
I think Richmond might be one of his better tracks too.
Yeah.
That's the next race on the 17th of April. So the Richmond 250 is round 6. But let's look at the next batch of races because of how short the schedule is. So April 17th, another off week, few off weeks.
May 1st at Kansas. May 7th, which is Friday at Darlington. Darlington. May 22nd, they go to Coda, so they don't go to Dover anymore. Charlotte, May 28th on the Memorial Day that week. Then they got another off week. Yeah, they got an off week. Texas, June 12th. Then they got Nashville, Pocono. There's only one race in July. Knoxville Raceway is the only race in July. And they go from July 9th to August 7th.
Watkins Glen.
Yeah.
First time since 2000 that they were racing at Watkins Glen. That's a challenging stretch. Now, of course, the Truck Series has only 22 races, so there's a lot of off weeks in between, but just look at the kind of tracks we have. We have a short track at Richmond. We have a mile and a half at Kansas. We have a mile-length track at Darlington, very unique shape. We have the inaugural Circuit of the Americas race.
Oh, my.
We have Charlotte 200, which is a familiar sight for the trucks. Texas 400K. Nashville, first race back to the Super Speedway since 2011. Pocono, of course, with their shortest race of the year, 150 on the 26th. A different kind of track compared to Nashville. Knoxville, first ever running of a short track, or not dirt track. Then Watkins Glen, first time in 21 years. That's a difficult stretch.
Yeah, but actually, Watkins Glen's actually the final race before the playoffs. The playoffs start at Worldwide of Technology Raceway, Canadian Tire. That's
Motorsport. Not to be confused.
And Bristol. Those are the first 3 races in that. 3
completely different tracks, Justin. I mean, we have, and hopefully it stays, at Canadian Tire by the time we get to September 5th.
Then the next round of 8, Vegas, Talladega, and Martinsville, and then the championship 4 race at Phoenix.
3 different tracks in both rounds, and then the championship 4. You really need to get your work. You gotta get everything down, all the notes ready. And remember, the Truck Series will have the same rules with practice and qualifying not being there.
Yeah.
So better get it right now, or else you might not get it right ever.
And also, I wanted to say people are mad about Jessica Friesen missing the race, but, she's actually running Knoxville. It was announced that she'll run the number 62 entry at Knoxville. She'll attempt to qualify in that race.
What's also unfortunate is that Ryan Newman, who was very fast in second practice, wasn't even able to make the race because of the rule system and how heat races got wiped out. The thing, the Truck Series race really got hurt by this weather situation.
Well, you also had Trevor Collins in the other CMI Motorsports number 83. J.R. Hefner with Drew. They crashed.
Separated.
Yeah, but he still missed the race. It's also like the 39 had no points. The 83 had no points. And the 62 had no points, but I don't even know how the 49 made. The 49 didn't have points, and because they were the last truck to make it in. But
I'm glad NASCAR allowed 40 to make the race either way. I mean, that was a good move. They should just stick it like that for the rest of the year at all tracks.
Yeah, there's more. There's always 40. There's always more trucks entered.
It's in the Xfinity Series. That's another problem. The Xfinity Series have the same problem here, and that's why NASCAR's trying to get this down by next year. Get the practice and qualifying back for next year.
But thing about it, it's we've had recently in Xfinity, this has been a problem. We've not just had last year we struggled to get a full field in Xfinity. We struggled to do that. Last year, we struggled to get 40 cars when we didn't have practice and qualifying last year. Now this year, it's not even a struggle compared to last year.
Unfortunately, it's game of musical chairs. Some people are going to be left out.
Yeah, there's some teams that got owner points from other teams. Some forgot to do that, like Jordan Anderson, Dylan Bassett, and them.
But there's only 40.
Yeah, the 48 team, Big Machine Racing, they bought owner points. They decide to buy owner points before.
And with the qualifying being rained out for the Daytona 300, their team's still suffering from that.
Yeah, and there's
Jordan Anderson racing.
Yeah, other
and it's also a shame to see a team that has sponsorship not even be able to make the show because of this rule.
But
that's why NASCAR's cutting down. You know, we learned from COVID. We're going to stay where we've done just to keep things safe and keep things flowing. But next year, expect a return to what needs to be done.
Like, there's also ACG Motorsports. They always run the plate tracks. I've seen them up front in plate races, but they couldn't run because the points. Mario Gosling's fourth entry, the 91, missed. They couldn't run either. Our Motorsports was supposed to run the 03. Now they acquired the 23 from RSS Racing to enter races. Like Blaine Perkins recently has been running in that entry.
Yeah, let's narrow things down because I do want to start the F1 part of this podcast because there's a lot to discuss there. But yeah, NASCAR, I think we're starting to see the difference between 2020, 2021, and pretty much any other season beforehand right now as this schedule moves on. So that's it for NASCAR. Well, like I said, the Cup Series gets their first off weekend during Easter. On Sunday, they'll be back at Martinsville Speedway.
Saturday. Yeah, Saturday.
Next Saturday. Thanks for correcting me.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move on to Formula One, the first race of the 2021 FIA Formula One World Championship at the Bahrain Grand Prix, the Bahrain International Circuit, to kick off the 72nd ever World Championship. And boy, what an exciting turn of events that had to be. Just by the looks of everything that took place during this is even testing, practice, qualifying in the race, just all the sessions were intense and just exciting to watch. Yeah. I don't think I regretted at all watching an F1 race. And I know a lot of people who are, watch F1 casually. They have a big casual fan base, F1, that just, watches a race because it's exciting. No. I don't care who you are, F1 fan or just casual fan because you happen to be awake when the race happens. No, you got to watch all the damn races this year. Let me get that straight.
Yeah, there's some. I know F1 is not like F1 is F1. It's a different type of sport compared to other motorsports.
I think we're gonna see a season we haven't seen since about 2016 or 2012.
Yeah, but people want a bigger championship fight. It looks
this might be it.
Yeah, but people like 5 drivers. It's probably gonna still be 2.
Maybe not as intense as 2012, but we're definitely heading that direction.
But we know first and second place.
Oh yeah, first and second place.
Yeah,
I don't even name their names. They're going to be at it this whole.
But third place. That's where the problem is. Because that third place driver, which people should know who's third.
Max, just kidding. Valerie Botos.
Yeah, he's I know he was third, but if you don't know, he finished third.
Let's go position by position here and discuss the Bahrain Grand Prix. So this was round 1 of what is currently, and I'm saying currently with some emphasis because we really don't know what the world will look like this entire year, of a 23 race world championship.
Yeah.
The first round at Bahrain had some spectators, unlike last year, which is great to see the Bahrain Grand Prix back at their the date where they're supposed to be. That's number 1. Lewis Hamilton led 27 laps.
27.
Yeah, started second.
Oh yeah, he did.
Hamilton, though he wasn't quick compared to Max Verstappen, Hamilton picked up his 96th career win after a brilliant strategy call by undercutting, and of course, the work by Toto Wolff in the garage.
And he held on.
Big time. It was Hamilton's 96th career win and his 166th career podium. Absolutely impressive run. The quest for 8 has begun. Now, it might be a little more difficult than last year and the years before, between 2016 and here, 2021, because, Nico Rosberg's gone, but you never know. This is a long season. We have a lot of unknowns. We got many differences in teams and power unit supplies and just driver lineups that will affect the complexity of this championship for sure. How about the venues? A lot of returning venues that are slated to be on the schedule this year. Some new places as well. Some tracks that we haven't been to in quite some time. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. But yeah, Bahrain International Circuit, a familiar face in the new millennium of Formula One racing. So yes, this Grand Prix was what you expected, but I did not expect to see the margin of victory be that close between Hamilton and Verstappen. In fact, the two drivers were trading positions in the last 7 laps. It was 7/10 of a second apart. That's how far back Max Verstappen was. He was fast all weekend long, all the practice sessions, qualifying. He just everybody picked up his 4th career pole, led 29 laps en route to his 43rd career podium, finishing second.
Oh my gosh! I just remembered I might have put. I said I didn't get fully properly. I said watch Max choke turn 1. I put that instead. But basically, I was kind of saying, watch Max choke the race, basically, in my head. And I kind of predicted that I predicted in my head that Max is going to choke and Lewis is somehow going to win. Yeah. So sorry, Max fans. Sorry, it might have been my fault.
Listen, Max Verstappen did a brilliant job.
Yeah.
This is usually Lewis Hamilton's playground we're talking about.
But Mercedes' car lost some pace after last season because of the new changes. There was some changes that, not like the full regulation, but some regulations did change after 2020. But it's not the new car yet. No, you got to wait till 2022.
That's the next step in what these teams are going to be focusing on. While it's all exciting now, all these teams are developing what they can to put a good F1 constructor together. It's still going to come down to next year in terms of the 2020s decade for the most part. But yeah, in terms of driver talent, we really saw the drivers have a say in this Grand Prix than we mostly seen in the past. Just look at qualifying here. All right, the qualifying session in the Bahrain Grand Prix was so intense in Q3. The top 5 were less than a second apart.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, AlphaTauri. That's 4 different constructors.
Yeah.
And 5 different drivers. This is beyond the Mercedes domination that we've really expected. But yeah, let's move down to 3rd place in the running order. 3rd place went to Valerie Botos, who started 3rd and picked up his 57th career podium and the fastest lap. So
yeah, he actually
1 point extra for the fastest lap.
Yeah, but he actually pitted. If people don't remember, he actually pitted. He was actually 15 seconds behind the top 2. He pitted, so he finished 37 seconds, but he got the fastest lap on the final lap to make sure that Max didn't get it because Max had the fastest lap. They did that to keep Max away from that point to basically put them, because if you don't know, Mercedes is leading in the constructors' points by a decent amount. We'll tell you that after, but yeah, Botos was not on pace with Hamilton. It's like, I'll show you basically an example. You had the leaders here, then you had Valtteri in his own world, and then the other people behind him. I don't know. Botos was not that fast compared to what I thought he would. Yeah, I thought he was going to be faster than what he was doing. I don't know. He was just in his own world, just running in 3rd, like 15 seconds behind the leaders, just there. Yeah, he was just quiet. He was quiet during the race.
Yeah, well, that's definitely going to be an interesting look for the near future. But we're going to talk silly season and all that later in the F1 discussions here. But let's continue on the running order. So we debriefed the podium finishers here. Kind of what you expect, for the most part. through the offseason that Hamilton, Botas, and Verstappen would share the podium positions. Usually Hamilton up front, and Verstappen or Botas would swap second and third race after race, including the fastest lap. Now, fourth place, Lando Norris had a very good weekend. Lando Norris in the McLaren, now McLaren Mercedes. McLaren has brought back Mercedes. They reunite after 2014, so it's about a 7-year absence from the Mercedes engine.
Yeah, because in 2015 they joined Honda, and McLaren Honda was not a good car.
No, definitely the opposite of all the expectations. And of course, Renault, was just a good stabilizer from then to now. Now Mercedes power is back, and a lot of expectations are high. In fact, I have my prediction that we'll see McLaren's dry spell that from Brazil 2012 come to an end. We'll see McLaren win this year. That's just something I might see.
Well, we'll just have to see, because Mercedes and Red Bull are the two teams that are going head-to-head. Ferrari is not there. I know that Ferrari has a better car, but still off the pace from other people. But like the Honda power plant, like Mercedes, Honda, and Renault's power plant, basically the engine I'm talking about, are fast. The Ferrari engines, they're still off the pace.
No, but they're there. They've definitely improved from last year, especially from what I've seen in the qualifying.
Well, 2 of them improved. The other one did not. You know which team we're talking about, that who improved and who didn't.
Right. Well, let's go down the point story. So Sergio Perez made his first start at Red Bull. Had to start from the pits after a late pace lap scare.
Yeah,
in the warm-up.
Shut off.
So he started at the back. It brought it to a 5th place finish. Warranted of a Driver of the Day award? Absolutely. Great performance by Checo, who finally gets to enjoy an offseason knowing that he's won a Grand Prix and continues his pretty successful F1 career. Charles Leclerc started 4th, finished 6th, and let's not forget that Red Bull and Mercedes scored double points in this race.
Yeah.
Daniel Ricciardo, 7th place in his debut with McLaren. So McLaren get double points right off the bat. Well done. 8th place, how about this? Carlos Sainz in his Ferrari debut. Scuderia, Mission Without Ferrari, double points for them. That is something we have not said about the constructor. Who knows how long. 9th place went to Yuki Tsunoda. Now, how about this driver, Yuki Tsunoda, new to the Red Bull. He's part of the Red Bull system, driving for Scuderia AlphaTauri Honda.
Yep.
Tsunoda, fresh out of F2. 2 years ago, he was in F3.
Yep.
This driver from Japan is very fast. And, we haven't seen a driver score points on debut, not since Stoffel Vandoorne.
Yeah, back in 2016. Vandoorne only scored a point. Yuki got 2. And also, Yuki is the first driver to be born in the 21st century in the year 2000. He's actually going to be 21 years old on May 11th. Yeah, he's the first driver born in the 21st century in F1.
Wow.
And he was fast. He had a good car. And also, he had pace close to Gasly.
Oh, he had very good pace. And finally, the last points paying position went to Lance Stroll, who started and finished in the 10th spot. By the way, speaking of Lance Stroll, Aston Martin's first race in Formula One since the 1960 British Grand Prix. It has been 61 years, and they're finally back. So welcome back, Aston Martin Racing, to Formula One. So outside the points, Kimi Räikkönen, who is in his 21st year of Formula One competition, finished 11th with his teammate in 12th place, Antonio Giovinazzi, outside the points. So the Alfa Romeo drivers, 11th and 12th. 13th place, Esteban Ocon. And mind you, this is the debut of Alpine in Formula One. Alpine is the grander brand of Renault. So, yes, Renault is pretty much the same system, but just under different branding this year.
Yeah. So,
welcome to Alpine, or welcome to Formula One Alpine. 14th place, George Russell for Williams. Russell finished 5th, or started in 15th. He finished 14th. Sebastian Vettel, 15th place in his debut with Aston Martin. finishing ahead of Mick Schumacher. Mick Schumacher 16th in his debut in Formula One, driving for Gene Haas, the Uralkali Haas F1 team, the Haas Ferrari. Now, let's talk about the two drivers who did not finish the race but completed 90% of the race distance, so they were classified. Pierre Gasly, who had a very impressive fifth place qualifying run, crash damage took him out on lap 52. Nicholas Latifi, the Canadian driver for Williams, retired on lap 51 with a turbo failure. He started 17th. Fernando Alonso, welcome back, two-time world champion. The Spanish driver Fernando Alonso back after a 2-year absence, driving with pretty much a reunion with Renault. Now driving with Alpine, started 9th, was running for the points, but then the brakes failed, and you're surprised how that happened. Fernando Alonso retired because of all things that caused his brakes to fail. A sandwich wrapper somehow flew over the grandstands and ended up on the track. It took Fernando Alonso to pick it up and then turn his car into a GP2 engine, as he once quoted, and took him out of the race.
But all things, you think, a piece of debris from a car, a sandwich wrapper. Yeah, interesting.
It's bizarre, man. It's bizarre.
Yeah, but you'll figure out who finished last.
And of all people who finished in last place, completed 0 laps and crashed out after 3 corners. Who better than Nikita Mazepin got the honors of doing that on his debut?
Yeah.
Okay, in all seriousness, Nikita Mazepin started 19th and lasted 3 corners. He spun twice in Q1. Kind of got in the way of other drivers' laps, including Sebastian Vettel, which sent Vettel to place swap, even though he had a grid penalty.
But also Vettel was looking 16th, was actually before the spin. He was tracking 16th, so
right. But any means of another lap to improve a time.
But it's just like the Haas car. It proves how
Haas is just not there.
Most their cars are bad. Like, even, remember when Gasly's front wing, we thought it was him that got the yellow? Mick Schumacher spun. Like, the Haas cars, one, they're not stable at all. Mick Schumacher.
Poorly created.
But do you want to know what's funny? During qualifying, Mick Schumacher said his F2 car is faster than the Haas F1 car.
Now, that's a first. I mean, well, leave it to Alonso. Like, remember, Fernando Alonso called his McLaren Honda a GP2 engine.
But, like, you saw how slow that Haas car is. It's way
ridiculous. That's why I predicted Haas to finish last in the Constructors' Championship.
Like, even with Mick Schumacher behind the wheel, the car is still slow. The car's not fast at all. And there was a thing, like, there's a YouTube channel called Mini Drivers. Like, they do these F1 things, like, with mini drivers, and one of the things was after they had Mazepin's crash, and then they had Mick Schumacher's spin, and then you just see Gunther Steiner yelling at him. Even with, he's basically like...
What did Gunther Steiner and Gene Haas expect going into this? Bringing 2 rookies to Formula One with one of the most struggling constructors. They've only gone downward. They were from, I'd say, good mediocre, average at best when they started. They had some veteran drivers that just seemed to not be able to cut it. And then all of a sudden you bring 2 rookies in, one driver who has been absolutely controversial, the other driver who is a qualified F2 champion. They're both under the Ferrari system because Haas runs Ferraris.
Yeah, like Haas.
No wonder why F1 in America is getting a bad look. But anyways, before I get political, because this is not my playground.
But like the Haas team, they did good in their first season. They got 6th in their first start with Romain Grosjean.
Oh, we thought it would only get better from there. Because what team in the history of F1 ever finishes in a points paying position on debut? I don't think anybody would be able to do that these days.
But just seeing that, it's like just seeing how Haas is not going to win races. They're most likely.
I have a feeling we're going to see Williams do better than Haas, even though they're still going to struggle getting points.
But they finished better. Like, I know Schumacher finished ahead of Latifi, but Latifi was ahead of Schumacher for most of the race, same as Russell. Nikita Mazepin did not last long at all. You know why?
He lost in 3 corners. Is there
Yeah.
anything else I need to say about this driver?
Well, it's not
He's
Ernst.
not bad. He wasn't bad in F2 as a driver, but
Well, it's not Ernst Loof bad when he lasted 6 feet on the. He didn't even make it to the physical start line. He lasted 6 feet, which is kind of a problem. But it's like, yeah, Haas
I'm sorry,
F1.
but American F1 fans are going to have a long season this year.
Yeah.
Unless Logan Sargent
or
Bobrovsky just made save of the year.
Or they just get someone that actually drives good, or they get someone hire someone that knows how to build a car. Or
yeah, maybe we'll see. I mean, the Ferrari power unit as a whole seemed to be very far back.
But
I mean, if they can at least catch up to the speed that Alfa Romeo had, I'd be surprised. Last year, I thought Alfa Romeo would do worse than Haas.
But,
that wasn't the case.
But like also this Haas is just their car is not stable. Their car is bad. Like it's not stable on the track. It's just not a good car to drive. It's not stable.
What does explain Gene Haas's business practices? If his NASCAR Cup Series team is championship caliber, yet his F1 program just seems to be like, I don't know, just a bunch of locals on the racetrack.
Yeah.
Okay. In all seriousness, let's take a look at the World Drivers' Championship. So yeah, if you're unfamiliar to the F1 point system, how they're awarded in the World Championship, first place 25 points, second place 18 points, third place 15 points, fourth place 12 points, fifth place 10 points. You get no points for 15.
No.
Sixth place 8 points, seventh place 6 points, eighth place 4 points, ninth place 2 points, and 10th place 1 sole point. If you are in the top 10 and have the fastest lap, you get an extra point, 1 bonus point.
Yep. So basically, Botas, instead of getting his regular amount of 15 points, he got 16 because of his fastest lap.
Correct. And with that, the World Championship, of course,
it's basically
the results of the race is it's round 1.
Yeah.
Hamilton, Verstappen, Botas.
Yep.
Botas with the extra point.
Yep.
Lando Norris, Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz Jr., Yuki Tsunoda, and Lance Stroll all scored championship points.
Yep.
Now, in the World Constructors' Championship, you tally both
Mercedes
points together from the drivers in finishing order.
So, like for Mercedes, 25 plus 16 points, which is 41. Yeah, and then Red Bull is actually second with 28. So they're 13 back already in the constructors. McLaren with Mercedes for the first time since 2014, in third place with 18 points. Ferrari, first double points finish in who knows how long. I lost track. 12 points. Fifth place, AlphaTauri, 2 points. Yuki Tsunoda, sixth place, Aston Martin. The last team scored points in in the Bahrain Grand Prix, 1 point. Seventh place, eighth place, ninth place, 10th place with no points. Based off the finishing positions, it's shown Alfa Romeo racing Ferrari, Alpine Renault, Williams Mercedes, and Haas Ferrari. Another break until the next Grand Prix. At the time of this podcast, the next race will be on the 18th of April, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola Circuit in Imola. Yep. Which it's going to be interesting, but it was an interesting race at Bahrain for the F1 season with battle for the lead, basically just the top 2, and then Botas just there in third in his own little world.
He was able to pit at the end and get the fresh tires to score the fastest lap.
He still finished third too. He was so far ahead of.
He wasn't that far. He would have stayed out, obviously.
Yeah, but he was 15 seconds behind the leaders and ended up being 37 seconds behind after his pit stop. But he had the fastest lap. His plan was just to prevent
Max from getting the extra bonus. That's what happens when you're a number 2 driver, right? You have to just serve the constructor and the number 1 driver while you sit in third.
Yeah, but Lewis struggled on his tires, but he knows how to drive a car. People said, "Oh, Lewis was cutting the track the whole time." I'm like, I've seen Max do that, but that's okay. People say it's okay for Max to do it, but not Lewis. I'm like, people said Max didn't cut the track, but I've seen Max ran wide.
In fact,
No,
this is where I'm asking the FIA, can you just ease it a little bit on the track limits? Because I think another exciting race was kind of ruined by a possible involvement with stewards.
Like for me, a series that IndyCar, they're allowed to go wide. Like you see
lesser track limits than F1.
Even IndyCar with road courses, you see them all the way wide at Coda. Like
F1, you can't go that far.
Yeah,
in F Grand Prix.
Yeah, like the thing is, it's interesting, but there was other interesting motorsport at Bahrain, like Formula 2.
Yes, we're going to discuss that in just a minute here. Justin, I'll let you take that away because we'll discuss the Bahrain International Circuit. So this was week 1 of what is currently an 8-week championship. Now the layout of the race weekends for Formula 2 is different from last year.
Yeah.
What changed in the off-season?
During the off-season, the FIA decided to have 3, not 7 races, 3 races in a weekend. They had, on Friday, they had practice and qualifying like normal, but the qualifying session, the results from the qualifying, whoever was the fastest in the qualifying session determined the feature race on Sunday. That feature race on Sunday was determined by the qualifying session. The sprint, which the feature race is now run on Sunday. The sprint races are run Saturday, which the first sprint race is run before FP3, and the second sprint race is run after qualifying after the F1 qualifying session. Sprint race 1 is the top 10 from the qualifying session inversed. And sprint race 2 is the results from the sprint race 1 race, but reversed. So basically, whoever won race 1 in the sprint race, the first sprint race, would start 10th in the second sprint race. Basically, whoever finished 10th would be the pole sitter for sprint race number 2. That's how they decided to do for this year. Instead of having the 2 races, they have 3 in a weekend, which is a little bit confusing, doing the 3 races. It was a little bit confusing at first how to set all the lineups, but it was interesting with the 2 sprint races only being 23 laps compared to the 32-lap feature, which was Sunday. It was interesting.
Yeah, so sprint race 1 was won by now the top 8 get points from the sprint races.
Yeah.
Top 10 get points in the feature race plus pole position. And if you hit the fastest lap and you're in that position to get points, then you get the 1 point added towards your total. So Liam Lawson won the sprint race 1, which was on Saturday.
Yep.
It was his first win, actually. For the driver for High-Tech Grand Prix. Jan Daruvula second for Carlin. David Beckman for the Truex Racing System. Robert Schwartzman, who I still believe is going to be a factor in this championship for sure. 4th place. Oscar Piastri, 5th. Christian Lundgaard, 6th. Guaynu Zhou, we're going to hear a lot about him in a moment. Dan Ticktum. And Delhi, who I assume, yes, he has the fastest lap, even though he finished 9th. It shows that he got 2 points out of that. Also, sprint race 2. Sprint race 2. Oscar Piastri. So, good day for the Australian fan base. The F3 champion last year is now in Prema's team in F2. Won over Christian Lundgaard. Guaynu Zhou, podium position. Jan Daruvula missed out. It was a close battle. Sprint race 2 was intense.
Yeah, but sprint race 2, the thing that's interesting about it, Christian Lundgaard at first was not. It was supposed to. The thing is, the FIA messed up the scoring. they had him scored in 9th. There was a reason. There was contact with Christian Lundgaard. Who did he hit someone. I remember he hit someone. I think he hit Dan Ticktum, but he was supposed to do a 10-second penalty. But the stewards reviewed that he did it under the pit stop. Remember, he did it under his pit stop. So after the race, they reinstated him into 2nd, which gave Guaynu Zhou backed up to 3rd, stay down from 2nd to 3rd, and that knocked Jihan Daruvla off the podium because he was
gotten those valuable points, absolutely.
Yeah, but
Richard Vershaw, how about Tcr Touring?
Yeah.
I've kept an eye on him a lot in F3 last year, and he made some F2 starts in 2020 as well. First points in his career in F2 for Art Grand Prix. So French driver, French team. We got a lot of high hopes here for these French single-seater fans here. David Beckman for Suarez Racing System points as well, and Marina Sato, no relation to F1 former driver Takuma Sato, the Indy 500 champion, rounded out the points, bringing his trident into the 8th spot. Now let's talk about the feature race. So qualifying for the feature race, that was won by Guaynu Zhou. Guaynu Zhou is running another year in FIA Formula 2 for United Bertozzi Racing.
Yep.
So not only got the 4 points from scoring pole position, but he wins the feature race and comes out with as much points as possible. I mean, he could have gotten the fastest lap too if you think about it, but there's a driver named Robert Schwartzman who's really fast. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Dan Ticktum, 2nd place. Liam Lawson, 3rd. Richard Vershaw, the Dutch driver for MP Motorsport, 4th. Marcus Armstrong, 5th. 6th place went to Jihan Daruvla.
Yeah.
Robert Schwartzman got the fastest lap, so 6 plus 2. He gets 8 points out of that run. Tcr Touring, 8th. And remember, 10th place gets the last point.
Yeah.
Filip Drugovich and Matteo Nannini.
Yeah, Matteo Nannini. His first weekend in F2, driving for HWA Race Lab, gets a point. Way better than his teammate.
Very impressive. I think we saw a lot of parity in FIA Formula 2 this year, and especially with the 3 races per weekend and how short the schedule is at the time of this podcast, that is. We're going to see a lot of differences in who's going to be up front, who's going to be running towards the back. Coming out of the championship after 3 races in 1 weekend, Guaynu Zhou isn't the points. He's got 11 points over Liam Lawson. Jihan Daruvla is 3rd with 28 points. 4th is Oscar Piastri with 21 points. That retirement really did hurt his efforts on catching up to Guaynu Zhou. Dan Ticktum is 5th. 6th place, Richard Vershaw, Christian Lundgaard 7th, Robert Schwartzman 8th, David Beckman 9th, and Marcus Armstrong rounded out the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. Now let's take a look at the top 5 in the Teams' Championship after 1 race weekend. Carlin up by 4 points over UNI Bertozzi Racing, so British teams 1st and 2nd. 3rd place with 37 points is Primo Racing. High Tech Grand Prix 4th, 30 points, and with 24 points in 5th place is Art Grand Prix. These guys get a long break from the next race. In fact, a little bit over 2 months' time. Not until the 22nd and 23rd of May for the Monaco Grand Prix race weekend at the time of this podcast, that is. It might change. But yeah, that would be week 2 of 8. So yes, these teams have a lot of time resting, but I'm sure the drivers will be venturing around in sports cars and all sorts of that. So keep an eye on that. We'll have a lot of interest in Formula 2, especially this year with how the race weekends have changed. So you really got to have a game on. Otherwise, it's very quick that you'd be missing out on valuable points.
And also, it's competitive, a competitive series.
Absolutely.
I know it's
a lot. You need as much attention from these F1 constructors as possible.
Yeah, and also, I know it's a spec series, but the moves that people can make in F2 cars, holy, you see the moves.
They're so impressive.
But you can sometimes make mistakes, like Dan Ticktum in the first race, the sprint race 1, remember? He wanted to pass. He was trying to pass Drogovic, but ended up hitting Verschoor by accident. But it's going to be an interesting season. We have good drivers that are decent, and slow drivers. Slow drivers. Alessio Deletto. So I had to say it. He is.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
There's a Kwame Brown for every sport.
Yeah. And do you want to know what's embarrassing? His teammate, Matteo Nannini, was 2 seconds off the pole time. He was 3.5 seconds, so he's 1.5 off.
Money talks, Justin. Money talks. Let's move on to another form of Grand Prix racing before we get into sports cars, because I know we have that segment, and that's just all there is for this upcoming weekend. So I think we'll just keep talking about GP racing, but this time it's MotoGP. So we go from the first World Championship weekend for 4 wheels to the first World Championship weekend for 2 wheels. The MotoGP season opener was an absolute thriller. The Qatar Grand Prix. Now, last year, of course, Qatar, everybody came, and as the week went on, just like the most of the world, during that second week of March, the world started to die and get infested by the virus we all know and love. Just kidding, we don't. I'm getting sick of it, and I can't wait to get vaccinated. But yeah, that happened, and then there was no Qatar Grand Prix at all, except for like Moto 2, and it was just this whole bad taste. And you kind of get some closure as a race fan, seeing that the Qatar Grand Prix went as planned with some partial fans in the stands. Everything looked as it should. So I'm glad that happened. But yes, the Qatar Grand Prix, in fact, the circuit will be used once again for round 1 of 19 in the MotoGP World Championship at the Lusail International Circuit in Lusail, Qatar, located in Doha. So yeah, we'll talk about round 1. So if you're not familiar with MotoGP, the top 15 finishing positions, meaning you got to finish to be in the top 15 to get points. So Maverick Vinales, the Spaniard Yamaha rider, picked up his 10th career win after starting 3rd. He also picked up the fastest lap. There are no extra points on that, but I just like to mention it anyways. John Zarco for Ducati. Ducati 2nd and 3rd. Francesco Bagnaia 3rd. So that's your podium. 4th place. Bagnaia was the pole sitter. Joan Mir, last year's world champion, the Suzuki rider, finished 4th. Fabio Quartararo, who led most of the season in points last year for Yamaha, finished 5th. Alex Rins 6th for Suzuki. How about Aprilia? What about the Espargaro brothers? Paul Espargaro and Alex Espargaro. Actually, Alex finished ahead of Paul. 7th and 8th. Actually, my bad. Paul's still with Honda. I don't know why I mentioned Aprilia, but sometimes it's different between reading and seeing things. Justin?
Yeah, wait. What?
9th place and 10th place, Ducati riders, Jack Miller and Ania Bastianini.
Okay.
11th place, Stefan Bradl for Honda. Yamaha's Valentino Rossi. How about Valentino Rossi, the veteran, still at it? Miguel Oliveira and his KTM teammate Brad Binder, 13th, 14th, picking up 5 points in total. And 5th place, Jorge Martin for Ducati, rounding out the points-paying positions. Now, moving on into the World Championship points now. Maverick Vinales, remember, 25 points for winning race, 20 points for 2nd, 16 points for 3rd, 11 points for 13 points for 4th, 11 points for 5th, 10 points for 6th, 9 points for 7th place, 8 points for 8th place, 7 points for 9th place, 6 points for 10th place. You finish 11th to get 5 points, 12th, 4 points, 13th, 3 points, 14th, 2 points, and 15th, 1 point. There are no extra points for bonus, like fast lap or pole position, none of that.
Nope.
But let's look at the constructors standings, though. The constructors and team standings. The constructor standings, Yamaha leads that with 25 points, 20 points for Ducati, 13 points for Suzuki. Aprilia, how about Aprilia? Good run for them. They were pretty weak last year. 9 points out of 1 race. 8 points for Honda, and yes, believe it or not, KTM is last.
Oh,
3 points for the Austrian brand. Now in the team standings, take a look at the team standings. 36 points for Monster Energy, Yamaha, MotoGP. See, I'm
Yodo GP, new sport starting in 2022. That would be weird.
Let's just act like I didn't say that. Ducati Lenovo team. Yes, Lenovo is the sponsor for Ducati this time around, so no more Mission Wanao. 23 points tied with Team Suzuki X-Star. 23 points as well. 21 points for Pramac Racing. And fifth place with 13 points, Repsol Honda team. And I know there's not too much racing going on this week, and that's why I wanted to mention this before we get into sports car racing. But they come back to the circuit for the Doha Grand Prix this weekend for round 2 of 19 at the same Qatar circuit.
Yeah, the race is at 1 Eastern. That's I checked it before, and also I watched it live. Rev TV has the deal for Canada, and the coverage was interesting because Rev TV went from having the coverage in Spanish to French to Japanese, then to English. So they switched They switched 4 languages in 10 minutes. I'm like, why is it not in English in the first place? Why is it in Japanese? I don't understand Japanese. But at least they had it in English when the race started.
That's another question I always want to ask you, Justin. How does a cable work? Especially in Moncton. Is there a special? Do you need a special deal to watch French TV in New Brunswick, or is it all English?
It's all English, but the TV package has some French default channels. Yeah, it's interesting. I've listened to hockey games in French. It's or last year when I was at my grandparents' house, I could only watch the truck races on RDS. So just listening to the commentators talk about Raphael Assard most of the time.
Mm-hmm. He comes from Quebec, so there's a lot of attention for Raphael Assard.
Yeah, but it was an interesting MotoGP race, that 22-lap event, which I'm starting to follow more MotoGP. I actually downloaded MotoGP 20 on my PC, so I've been playing some of that. But it's I'm starting to get into MotoGP. Okay.
So since the MotoGP Race 2 is this weekend, let's make a prediction. Who do you think will end up on the top 7 of the podium? We'll see back-to-back from Maverick Vinales. Will Joan Mir, last year's champion, come back up top? What will it look like now that everybody gets a second go-around at this circuit in Doha, Qatar?
Okay, I have mine. I feel on the top step for the podium is... How do you even say this name? Let me... Who
does he ride for?
He's for Pramac Racing, Johan Zarco.
Yeah, Johan Zarco.
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
Ducati, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of potential, but I really think that we'll see more of Fabio Quartararo, especially after last year's pitfall when he seemed to be very secure in the championship. The series of injuries that Quartararo had was absolutely devastating to watch, and everybody knew that if it weren't those injuries, if that wasn't the case, he would have probably came out of 2020 with the world championship. So maybe this is his opportunity to pick up on those valuable points. Maverick Vinales is strong. We're going to have a good bout on Sunday.
Wow, I was just looking through the MotoGP website to see how his name was to know what it said. Right as I clicked on his name, it put the MotoGP website in Italian. I don't understand Italian. At least I put it back in English because I don't understand.
Website, so you gotta give some leeway there.
It's like the Super Formula Championship.
Well, the European Law Series website, when you open up, it comes out as French from default, and then you have to click the little UK icon to switch it over.
It's like the Super Formula Championship. That's in Japanese, which we don't understand Japanese.
Super Formula's got, I think, is their season starting this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend on April 4th at Fuji Speedway for the first round of the 20.
How many rounds in total?
They have They have 7 rounds. They go round 1 is at Fuji. Round 2 is at Suzuka. Round 3 at Autopolis. Then round 4 at Sportsland Sugo. Twin Ring Motegi Race 5. Round 6 at Okayama. Round 7 at Suzuka. So 7 rounds in the season. Fuji's the first race of the season. They actually ended their season at Fuji last year.
Yeah, they used Fuji a lot in multiple Japanese divisions or disciplines of racing because of the pandemic. Fuji's been very actively open. But, I think we'll see a lot of parity, especially since Nikassi's gone. And
the champ is still there, the champion from 2020.
Yeah. Naoki Yamamoto. I think we'll see a lot from him as well. So this is going to be a fun season to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well, let's move on to sports car racing and talk about what happened over this weekend. First and foremost, the 2021 NLS Nurburgring Langstein Series, if that's how you pronounce it, also known as the VLN, formerly known as the VLN, which is all Nurburgring season, was wiped out because of a snowstorm at the ring. And this is the first time we've seen snow at this track during the race weekend, but this time it was just out of hand for a 6-hour race. So 140 teams overall were told to go home and come back on April 17th. Let's talk about the race that actually happened. The 2021 12 hours of Mugello for the 2021 24H series provide the Hankook 24H series organized by Creventic, round 2 of 8, what is currently an 8-race championship. First race since the famous Dubai 24 hours in mid-January. And the track that closed off the Creventic season last year was the 12 hours of Mugello. Came back to its original distance. And in the end, it was Herbert Motorsport once more. Herbert Motorsport with Robert Renauer, Alfred Renauer, Ralph Bone, Daniel Alleman took the win overall by 3 laps. And the team that won last year's 12 hours of Mugello won this year's 12 hours of Mugello.
Oh my gosh.
Second place went to the team that won this race twice before, the number 11 Middle Cap Racing with Scuderia Praha Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. That team is actually based from the Czechoslovakian region, so actually from Czech Republic to be exact. Joseph Kral, Matthias Weber, and his brother Miroslav Weber were in the car.
Oh my gosh.
Third place, Justin was going.
I was just looking through NHL and stuff. The Oilers are losing 4-0 to the Canadians after the second period. Yeah, I guess the Oilers are not trying to.
The Oilers, when we need the Oilers to make it count, they just they can.
Well, come on. Oh, Tampa's losing to the Blue Jackets 2-0. Don't know how. I guess the Blue Jackets are trying today. Oh, the Blackhawks.
All right, let's move on back to the 24H Series race. Third place to round out the podium. Porsche's been just strong. They had a great race. Dynamic Motorsport Porsche number 7 finished third with drivers Stefano Monaco, Roberto Pepinini, Mauro Calamaya, and Matteo Caroli with the Ferrari with the Porsche 911 GT3R.
I'm about to say a Ferrari 911.
But the battle for second came down to the final lap. 335 laps were complete after the race finished, and the gap between first and second was 3 laps. So Herbert Motorsport, in which I've seen them succeed very well in the Asian Moss Series, continued their success. Fourth place was the sister car for Herbert Motorsport, Porsche, in the GT3 class, by the way. So we're talking about overall here. Number 92 with Stefan Aus, Bobby Gonzalez, Jorgen Harrig, and Marco Seefried for number 92, 5 laps down. And 5th place was the number 66, Hegeli by T2 Racing Porsche. So Porsche finished almost in the entire top 5. Had things got a little bit different with the Scuderia Praha Ferrari. With the drivers, Mark Bassing, Pieter de Curtins, and Manuel Lach. Now, Manuel Lach put out some pretty good battles with Pierre Caffer, which was the number 18 Audi, but it seemed like those two, which they finished on the same lap, as they should, just held together very well. Let's move on to the next class, the class results. So the GTX class will start off with the GTX class, because they were the next class in the overall list, finishing 10th overall on lap 321. The number 724 Reiter Engineering KTM Crossbow GTX Concept ended up winning. This team has been around since 1994, and they've raced many years with loyalty in manufacturers such as Ferrari, Lamborghini, and KTM, bringing the motorcycle brand into sports car racing, which we've seen a big trend on lately. The drivers that were part of the winning lineup in GTX were Eike Engermeyer, the Austrian driver, American driver Nikolai Inglalian, Horst Finnerbreyer Jr. from Austria, and Norwegian driver Mats Seljberg, or Seljehag. Sorry if I got that name wrong. Finishing 10th overall. And they had a massive margin over everybody else in the GTX category. Because second place in the GTX class was the number 712, and I love this team, Vortex V8, with this French team builds their own car. It's like a project car that's put together, a project race car with the drivers, Philippe Bonnell, Pierre Fontaine, and Nikolai Nob. Now, they finished 23rd overall, so you could tell how dominant the KTM was compared to the rest of the class. Third place in GTX was the number 701 Vortex V8. So the sister car essentially finished third, 30th place overall. See how far back everybody was?
Yeah.
With Lanel and Ruche, Philippe Bonnell. So yeah, Philippe drove both cars for Vortex. Karen Gaillard and Boris Gimin. Lap 268. So they were far back. Fourth place in the GTX class was the all-Lithuanian team with number 720 Siluia by RD Sainz Racing Team. They drove a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo and finished 70 laps behind overall, 32nd overall. Fourth in class, and fifth place in the GTX class went to the car that failed to finish this race. It was the number 726 Lotus PB Racing, an Italian team running the Lotus Exige V6 Cup car. I haven't seen this car in a long time. The Lotus PB Racing actually had an onboard camera that was posted on Facebook Live, so I got to watch a good view from there. Engine failure on lap 102 took them out of the race. So that's GTX. Now let's move on to the Porsche, the one-make class, the 991 class, the Porsche 991 Cup car, GT3 Cup car, finished. Okay, so the car that won class was the number 955 Willie Motorsport by Ebby Motors, finishing 12th overall, completing 315 laps, and 3 laps ahead of the competition in class, with drivers Fabrizio Braghi, Sabino De Castro, and Romanian driver Sergio Nicole. Over the Jude Racing team, number 910. This is a Lithuanian team that was built 33 years ago with Jonas Gelskins, Andreas Gelskins, actually he's one of the owners, and Julius Adomanovicis. I said that right, actually, because I listened to the broadcast, that is. That car finished second in class, 3 laps down. In fact, they were a lap of their own compared to the other car that finished 2 laps behind. The number 924 Pro Fildors by Huber Racing. We saw that Porsche finished third in class. Fourth place in the 991 class was the number 909 Duo Racing, the Luxembourg-based team, 21st overall, with their all-Russian lineup. And fifth place in the 991 Cup class was a team based in San Marino, owned by NASCAR Whelen Euro team owner Gianluca Di Lorenzi. So number 967 GDL Racing, fifth place in class. In fact, they were 27th overall, way off the pace compared to their competitors in class. Now let's take a look at the last class in the GT division before we move to TCE, even though TCE class finished higher than this one. Only 2 cars, unfortunately, competed in this division, which was a little bit of a surprise, knowing how competitive this kind of car is and how accessible the GT4s are. But the GT4 class winner finished 26 overall. There was 5 drivers in this car. The number 412 Century Porsche Ticino, Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport with Christian DeConte, Alessandro Fagliani, Thomas Herbst, Valerio Precisi, and Antonio Spavoi. Finished 26 overall, completing 289 laps. The only other car that was in that class was number 438 ST Racing, Samantha Tan Racing, BMW M4 GT4 with Canadian driver Samantha Tan, the owner driver with the Americans Chandler Hull and John Miller. By the way, those 2 drivers, Miller and Chandler Hull, will be driving. You'll see them more in GT3s with the BMW contract they have. All 3 drivers are under BMW contract. If I'm not mistaken, yes, ST Racing did win their class of the Dubai 24. So that's it for the GT division. Now let's move to the TCE side of things, the touring cars. Starting off with the TCR class, running the FIA World TCR touring car specs. How about this father-son duo winning here? Completing 310 laps, finishing 15th overall with a 2-lap advantage in class and in division. Winning was the number 101 Red Camel Jordans.nl, the Dutch team with Ivo Breukers and Rick Breukers, father and son, winning in class by 2 laps over a fellow country team with NKPP Racing by Baskoten Racing with Gij Bassam and Harry Helders. Third place, we saw AC Motorsports. So, and by the way, I forgot to mention the car that won in class was a Cupra Leon TCR, formerly in the Seat brand, which is a Spanish manufacturer, but now Cupra has their brand of their own. So Cupra's 1 and 2. Third place was the number 188 AC Motorsport Audi RS3 LMS TCR with Stefan Perrin and Mathieu Deer. Fourth place in the TCR class, we had the Fernandez family team, also known as the RC2 Junior team by Cab Racing, number 108. They drove a Cupra Leon, but this time this was a competition edition TCR, a little bit older version of the Cupra TCR. And fifth place, which a lot of people predicted to win this one, has been a struggling day of work for the Auto Drama Motorsport by Wolf Power Racing Volkswagen Golf GTI TCR. In fact, the sister car, number 112, had a problem during practice, and they could not repair that car in time for the race, so they had to go solo. And for that team, what I've seen from them in the past, that's just been a very bad situation for a team that has high expectations with a factory Volkswagen lineup in TCR. Now let's move on to the other TC division class. Last but not least, the TCX class, won by the finishing 24th overall, completing 294 laps. It was number 206 Speed Lover, a Belgian team. Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport. It was down tuned to meet the TCX class standards, Justin, because the Porsche Cayman 718 won the GT4 class too. Drivers Kurt Henson, Felipe Wills, just two drivers in this car ended up winning in class over the number 278 CWS Engineering Janetta G55 Super Cup, completing 281 laps. The car was driven by two British drivers, including the owner driver Colin White, who is 64 years old, who we've seen race in European stock cars in the 2000s, prior to the birth of the NASCAR Wheel and Euro division. Colin White, the owner driver, with Jean-Francois Bruneau, who is actually under the American flag, and James Kell. So they finished on the podium in TCX, and third place in the TCX class was is the number 202 JR Motorsport BMW M3 E46 GTR with all Schoutens. They're all in the same family, I guess. Bas Schouten, Koos Schouten, and Dirk Schouten, the Belgian family, completed 267 laps to round out the podium in class. Fourth place in the class was the number 205 Lotus PB Racing. This time, instead of the other class, GTX, they brought a Lotus Elise Cup PBR, different model of the Lotus manufacturer. 5 drivers in that lineup. And fifth place, that car that didn't finish the race, was the number 203 JR Motorsport BMW M3 F80. So a different version of the BMW. This is more like a customized touring car class. In total, this was a very interesting race. We had a lot of entries, of course, compared to last year's 24H Series rounds that were really affected badly by COVID-19.
Yeah.
So their next race for the 24H Series that is according to, as of today, because this could very well change, and we saw round 3 of this event relocate on the 23rd and 24th of April. We'll have the 12 hours of Paul Ricard at the Circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet, France, home of the French Grand Prix. We've seen that track host a lot of sports car races in the last year during the pandemic.
Yeah.
That round replaced the 12 hours of Spa that was supposed to happen that weekend.
Yeah.
So I'll be round 3 of 8. The other rounds, of course, we have the 12 hours of Hockenheimring. That was a 16-hour race last year. 24 hours of Portimao, 24 hours of Barcelona. The Copa Florio is back. One of my favorite events of endurance racing last year. Actually, was a replacement race at Autodromo di Pergusa in Pergusa, Italy. That's actually a return of a tradition. The Copa Florio, dated as far back as the early 1900s, 1900 to be exact, the very first Copa Florio. And the tradition was brought back in the 1980s for the World Sports Car Championship and was scrapped off. And because of COVID, they needed another go around for the 24H Series. So they brought back the Copa Florio. That's on October 2nd and 3rd. And I hope this race stays. Crossing my fingers because it's on my birthday. But on the same weekend as last year's 12 Hours of Sebring, the 24H Series season closes at the 24 Hours of Sebring, the first ever running of a 24-hour race at Sebring on the 12th and 14th of November. I want to spend my birthday there. And that would be a fun weekend.
We'll just have to see. That's all the way in November. We're only March 30th. That's in a few months from now.
The last time Creventic crossed the pond was during the 24 Hours of Coda in 2019. So we haven't seen that yet during the pandemic. But either way, it has been a good race, and I think everybody enjoyed watching the 12 Hours of Magellan. By the way, I forgot to mention the 12 Hours of Magellan was a 2-part 12-hour race.
Yeah.
The 12 Hours of Paul Ricard will be a full-on 12-hour race with no break in between.
Oh.
All right, so we're going to keep the endurance sports car racing discussion alive because, Justin, I know we don't have too much racing going on this weekend, but in Australia,
there's 2 events. 2. It's not the same event. It's 2 different events.
The return of a tradition.
Yep. The Bathurst 6 Hours is this weekend. The last time it was held was in 2019 with the trio of Derek Linton, Tim Lehani, and Bruce Linton. They were the winners. back in 2019. That race was actually canceled due to COVID last year, and they have this race every year on Easter. It's an Easter tradition. They have it again in 2021. It's going to be, there's a decent amount of cars on the entry list. The race, yeah.
I think this year, I mean, we're going to have a lot to look at going into this event because of the unknowns. And remember, the Bathurst 12 hours was scrapped last year, and it's still been a challenge to get the GT World Challenge Australia scheduled going on because this is the first year under the SRO group. So, Phillip Island happened, and it was hard to get that going, but we had some help from the supercars drivers to get that going. So this would be round 2 of 4. Now they're trying to get a race back in Mount Panorama again on the 26th, 20th of November. We don't know details on that, but we do know is they have a race of their own for this year. For pretty much and I assume this is a 6-hour race as well for the World Challenge Australia.
Yeah.
So the traditional 6-hour race that features more touring cars racing for the overall win compared to the GT or the traditional 6 hours of Bathurst that go on. We'll start off with the 6 hours of Bathurst because we know more than there's expected. And by the way, just by going off last year's running order, the A1 class is expected to win overall.
Yeah.
So it may be different, but let's take a look at see who you think that might end up winning this race after a year gap with the pandemic. They're back, and we're going to see this race return. The winner of the traditional 6 hours of Bathurst, who will that be? It's a tough one.
Oh, I got mine.
Sorry.
My pick is the number 67 JMG Total Park Plus Ford GTF, driven by Jeremy Gray, Jeff Hume, and Stefan Robinson.
This is going to be more like a flow of what we've seen in the Bathurst 1000, but I'm going to go with this team right here, the Bloomfield Capital Racing BMW M1, number 17, with Jesse Bryan, Cody Donald, and 888 Race Engineering Supercars development driver, Angelo Mazuris. I've seen race a lot in Super 2 in the past few years, and we might see that. I feel like the teams with 3 drivers will do better here, believe it or not. Even though the Bathurst 1000 usually lasts about 5 to even 6 hours, even more 7 or 8 hours, even though that race features 2 drivers for the most part, I feel like you're going to need a 3rd driver for this go-around.
Yeah.
We're not going to go class by class because I really haven't looked too much in this, but let's move over into the other big event that's going to happen during the same weekend, and that is the round 2 of the GT World Challenge Australia, round 2.
Yeah.
In fact, there are 2 races, by the way, for this weekend.
Yeah. This series is the GT World Challenge Australia. Okay, my camera's shaking. I don't know why. Okay, camera. There's no earthquake. No, nothing bad's happening. It's just my camera's being weird. Huh. Yeah, there's some names in this entry. Really good drivers in there. Like Shane Van Gisbergen's in the race. Chaz Mosserd, Gart Tander. There's drivers from supercars that are in this event. Yeah. So you might.
I think this one. I mean, Shane Van Gisbergen, I'm surprised he's even racing with the injury.
Yeah,
that's a plus on its own, or just not a plus, but a surprise. I think I'm going to go with I think the winner overall will definitely come from Champ Pro Am class.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Audi. We're seeing Audi do well here. Number 777 with Yasser Shen and Garth Tanner. Garth Tanner's another Bathurst 1000 champion. I think we're going to need a Bathurst winner to be a part of the winning lineup here.
Okay, my pick is the number 888, driven by Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane Van Gisbergen, and former last year's Bathurst, one of the Bathurst 1000 winners from last year.
He paired with Garth Tanner last year, so I think it might just work in the favor. That's a Mercedes, and I assume that's 888 because they have a sports car program.
Yeah.
So if you want your racing this weekend, go ahead and check it out. You just have to stay at Blade for it.
Well, and I figured out for both races, Joseph. For both races, it's on motorsport.tv, which is a free thing. You just create a free account and you can watch it off there. I figured it out. I just went on their website.
Perfect.
You just sign up. It's free. You just sign up with your email. Yeah, I've viewed races. I've viewed some races off of there before. That works good.
Okay, and perfect.
It's going to be interesting. MotoGP, the Super Formula's first race of their season. It's going to be an interesting weekend.
Not as much, but guys, enjoy your holiday.
Yeah,
we're going to come back with a lot of stuff to look forward to in NASCAR and whatnot. So I think this is a good stopping point with this podcast, and we'll see you guys next week. My partner Daniel Ford joined us earlier. Justin Heber. I'm Joseph Landy Pavlon signing off tonight. Have a good one.
Yeah.